Just over 2 decades ago, something really cool happened. As the FPS genre was moving in a more cinematic direction, a small Polish developer forced into being a game that bucked every single one of the going trends. A game with an impact so profound that it could only be described as Poland's finest export. Deriving inspiration from the past and melding it with the contemporary tech of the time, it blew wide open a niche that wouldn't properly come to fruition for at least another decade. The original 21st century power fantasy with a banger soundtrack. This game was action first. There was a story. The story's not important. You were here for one thing, to splatter demons. And splatter demons you did. Grab your stake gun, guys, because this is that game. Roll the intro.
Time to play the game.
Alright guys, context. Look, I wanted to use my typical intro songs, but this game's cutscenes give me nothing to work with. As of the time of this writing, Anshar Studios is in the process of preparing the Painkiller reboot for release, and while I'm not quite sure how to feel about everything I've read / seen quite yet given this IP's history, don't worry, we'll get to that. The sheer fact that it was even announced, and that gameplay was shown off, has thrown a craving off on me. Guys, let me paint a picture for you. Do like that one dude from the Beatles did who got shot in the face, and imagine you get a demo disc out of this particular issue of Xbox Magazine. Demo discs were awesome when they weren't wiping your memory cards. The demo disc in question has a bunch of really cool games on it, as well as this soccer game for some reason. One of the demos on this fateful disc was a demo for the console port of Painkiller, more specifically Painkiller Hell Wars. And obviously, because it's so enchanting, so different, but yet so instantly familiar, you become intensely knowledgeable of the levels showcased therein. Sounds great, right? That's because it was. That was a sequence of events that happened with me. Following that event of playing that demo, later on down the line, because they are goated, my folks gifted me Painkiller to play on our computer. To be more precise, it was Painkiller Special Edition, which was a truncated / budget version of the game. Had only half the levels and none of the cutscenes. Don't worry, we'll get to the cutscenes. A few years later, I ended up getting my hands on the Black Edition. Here's me holding the physical box. And when I got it, buddy, I wore it out. I mean, I played the Special Edition a lot, but that's half the game. This is the, rest of it. Also, it had BOO! Now, as time passed, more games were released under the Painkiller name, and obviously, since I'm a glutton for punishment, I had no choice but to get my hands on these other offerings, and as such, I received the distinct privilege of watching something that I love burn before my eyes. But before I go on that particular rant, we have to go back to the beginning. That's right, Metropolis Software. Alright guys, there's a bunch of Polish names here, and those are kind of hard to pronounce, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. So basically, in the year of 1992, lifelong homies, Adrian Kmielars and Grzegorz Michalski decided to go into business together, and as a pair, they achieved moderate success under the name of Metropolis Software. Success to the point that they grew up to having around 20 full-time employees. Now that's cool, right? Getting to do business with one of your friends. However, doing business with friends can often strain a given friendship, and this was no exception. Kmielars ended up leaving Metropolis Software after having a conflict with Michalski. In fact, he left Metropolis Software so hard that he almost left the video game industry as a whole, but after having a few months to cool off, he decided to come back to the industry with a brand new aim. You see, at that time in history, which would be roughly in the early 2000s, Polish game development didn't really have a footprint in the grand scheme of things. Games that did well locally never seemed to break through the Eastern European glass ceiling. Adrian Kmielars took a sledgehammer to his Rolodex and contacted acquaintances Andrzej Poznacki and Mikhail Kazaradzki, founding People Can Fly. And my friends, what was People Can Fly's first game?
Like little Prodigus.
No, Ricky, your answer wasn't in the form of a question. Their first game was Painkiller. See, told y'all it makes sense. Painkiller arrived with what is possibly the greatest trailer I have ever seen for anything ever. I'll leave a link for it, but don't worry, it's extravagant. The story goes like this. You play as this mercenary named Oscar Herrera who runs around cleansing places for money. And wait a minute, wait a goddamn minute, that's not the story. Producer, you set me up. I'm gonna get in that ass like it's a flaky bitch. Okay. Whew. So that was the original draft for the story. They talk about it in this neat little article I found. As stated, you would have been a mercenary who ran around killing ghouls and other spooky things in exchange for doubloons. Eventually, though, as fate would have it, he would get a call to a job where he would get caught in the middle between a couple different clans of the undead, but also he's out for himself, whatever. They got so far that they even got some cutscenes going. Look, here's one. Their publisher, the Canadian-based Dreamcatcher Interactive Incorporated, saw the story and said that it was, and I quote, too complicated for American audiences, which is big talk for a company whose country of origin has never landed on the moon. At the time that Dreamcatcher made that silly comment, Painkiller was given a 12-month time frame for development and a budget of $500K. But after seeing how the gameplay was shaping up, People Can Fly were given another 12 months and another $500K to work with. Incidentally, PCF also ended up with what amounted to creative freedom essentially with the gameplay. Dreamcatcher really just said, hey man, let him cook. Pair that with the amount of time spent on the project before it was even picked up by a publisher, and one could safely assume that this game was in the oven in one shape or another for a span of around 3 years. That, and also there's a neat little making of video that comes with the game, and in that video, Adrian himself says that the development time was around 3 years in length. Speaking of the gameplay, oh buddy. So on the technical side, PCF built their own engine for this game. It was the Pain engine. But before they built their own engine for this game, they did try running the concept in a different engine. I believe it was called the Shine engine. Here's a screenshot. Looks a little different. As far as how Painkiller plays, however, my friends, there is one fairly innocuous detail that makes Painkiller just so good, in my opinion. It's the one thing that People Can Fly understood when making this game, and the follow-up expansion Battle Out of Hell, while also being the one thing that every developer that got their hands on the franchise afterwards either struggled to grasp or willfully ignored. This game has incredible pacing. It does whatever it can to keep you moving. To further prove my point, I'm going to quickly compare the PCF entries to everything else put out under the Painkiller name. And guys, while it may sound like I'm being hard on some of these games, just know that despite the fact that some of these latter entries were basically developed by fans of the series, Dreamcatcher Interactive still rubber stamped them and acted as the publisher. So really, I'm just going to blame Dreamcatcher for this and move on. So the base game, very fluid, very proper, very demure. You're a stark raving death machine on 50 wheels. Battle Out of Hell, the exact same. Granted, some of the levels are a bit longer, especially Dead City, but there are also 10 levels in the expansion versus the 20 plus in the original, so that discrepancy explains itself. Overdose? This is the first Painkiller that wasn't made by PCF, and that discrepancy is evident. Granted, Overdose is still a solid game, and as far as the post-PCF years go, it's probably the only one that I think I could still make a good video on. But this is the point where the pacing takes a noticeable step back. The individual battles don't really drag so much as the levels themselves just seem to meander for far too long, especially in the first 2/3 of the game. As you get towards the back end of the game, things get a bit more punctual, which helps greatly. Animal Farm is a great example of this. I've got a couple other gripes with the game, but honestly, I'll cross that bridge when I get there, whenever that is. Painkiller Resurrection doesn't work. Look, I hate to be that guy, but this game is unplayable without being patched. But even if the game worked perfectly, it would still just be all over the place. It's a slog that makes me feel like I'm working. Painkiller Redemption, a collection of reworked multiplayer maps, mangled and compressed into a single-player campaign. By the way, the PvP and base Painkiller ended up being featured in some Pro League tournaments. Cool stuff. They advertised 6 levels with 6,000 monsters to kill. Yeah, buddy, that ain't a game. That's a digital assembly line. Painkiller Recurring Evil, it's the same thing again. Painkiller Hell and Damnation, okay, this one is the most frustrating one of the bunch. It was supposed to be a remake that doubled as being a sequel. Now, while that fact on its own is comically ridiculous, the development team managed to still butcher the pacing in the remake by adding a bunch of random mobs to pre-established levels that serve to hinder the flow of the game. And yes, I know there's a story reason for this, but I don't care. All they had to do, and I mean all they had to do, was take the original game and put a new coat of paint on it, and everyone would have gone bananas over it. But that's not what they did. I mean, I've had more fun with it than some of the previous few that I just listed, but I'm still dumbfounded as to how one can walk up to the sharpened edge of a knife and still manage to miss the point like these guys did here. How do you break something that already worked? I don't get it. Grievances aside, let's get back to the meat and potatoes of this video. Painkiller is a straight line bunny hop from one homicide pasture to the next, with enemies spread out enough so that it rarely falls into the trap of hold S while hitting mouse 1, or sitting still and spawn camping endlessly. It's remarkable stuff. I can talk about the mechanics slash enemy slash combat all day long, and don't worry, I'm about to get to how it all goes together, but make no mistake, if this game was not designed from the ground up to keep you moving, then this whole venture would have felt rather forgettable. Painkiller hit the shelves in 2004 and bucked every trend that was being established in regards for releasing a successful first-person shooter at the time. Master Halo, his evolving combat, and his earth-rattling success of the era commenced into being a new standard. That new standard pushed the genre in a more cinematic direction, and while in the case of the original Halo trilogy, the skeleton of an old-school arena shooter can still be found deep beneath all of the concessions made to make the game feel good on console bereft of a mouse and keyboard, it was still a radical enough departure of the genre as it originally stood to create a niche, a vacuum almost, for those who yearned for the days of old, whether they liked Halo or not. And in this instance, Painkiller filled that hole. I've seen some discourse here and there about whether or not Painkiller could be called a boomer shooter or minimally an old school shooter, and while detractors to that idea may have a few good points, I feel like we're kind of splitting hairs there. Look, you've got arena style weaponry, we got secrets, some power-ups. The only thing missing is key hunting. Oh wait, we got that too, even if it's only for one level. As far as impact goes, I've seen people go so far as to say that there is some clear and evident Painkiller DNA in the modern Doom series. And while I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with the idea that Painkiller bunny hopped so that Doom 2016 could run, and by extension so Doom Eternal could air dash and Doom the Dark Ages could get pooped on by a legion of soft-skull dipshits that are incapable of recognizing greatness when they see it, I'm fucking looking at you, Reddit. I would at least be lying if I didn't recognize why the comparisons exist in the first place. That's why I say that this game hit something that wouldn't properly manifest for another 10 years or so. While there was definitely a conglomerate of people who were not buying what Bungie was selling with Halo, Halo was still on top at the time, and as such, times were good. It wasn't until COD overtook Halo and then bastardized the entire genre as a whole that the undercurrent of vitriol hit the fever pitch needed to pave the way for the deluge of successful boomer shooters that we see today. Painkiller was so far ahead of the curve that it was still a whole town away from the aforementioned embankment. Alright, guys, I apologize. I've been rambling. Back to gameplay. As stated before, you move quickly, very quickly, especially when bee-hopping. It's almost Quake-esque, which I'm sure was the point. The combat loop could be considered brainless, quote-unquote, but it is executed very well. Kill demons with unnecessarily satisfying weaponry. And eat their souls. Souls give a modicum of health, with green souls giving 1 point of health and red souls providing 6 points of health. Pick up 66 souls and engage the demon morph. This is the demon morph, by the way. Granted, I don't know if this game ever gives a lore reason for the existence of Demon Morph outside of heh you ate souls, but hey, it's there. It doesn't even make mathematical sense. You're just eviscerating the competition with brainwaves while using Predator vision. This brings me to my next point, the physics engine. This game utilized the Havoc physics engine, which was a big deal for the time. During this period, having a physics engine of any sort was enough to turn heads. Half-Life 2 paid an unreasonable number of mortgages because of its physics engine, among other things. Now, in the intro, I described this game as the original 21st century power fantasy, and a big part of that comes from this physics engine. I mean, just look at this. Fundamentally grotesque levels of uncalculated horsepower on display here. Nothing beats running through a crowd of axe-swinging hoodie demons and blasting them in the chest with a slug that sends their carcass far enough away that it lands in a different climate. This game has like 25 levels or so, and it never gets old. It never wears out its welcome. It's just a rampage for the sake of it, with a killer OST backing it all up. Fun fact, when I got Painkiller Black Edition back in the day, it came with a CD of the original soundtrack, but unfortunately it has lost the time, and I have no idea where it is now. Sad. The music is fairly straight ahead 4/4 chugs with some electronic flair here and there, almost Rammstein-esque now that I think about it. As far as the story goes for this game, the real story this time, the story doesn't matter. It just doesn't. I don't care. I mean, there are cutscenes, and the cutscenes tried to cut together a narrative of some sort, but aside from a few notable exceptions, such as them name dropping the name of a demon or a given level, by the way, the level names here are incredibly blunt, more on that in a minute, nothing in the plot ties back into the gameplay. I just got done playing Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, and that game's story slash gameplay is stapled together at the hip, as with every other game I've talked about on this channel, but here that isn't the case. That may also contribute to the fact that I don't really care for the story either. The moments that should have some sort of heft just don't. I mean, we could blame it on the fact that they had to rewrite the story at Dreamcatcher's request, but hell, this company also worked on Bulletstorm, and that game's story was just fine at best.
Hold your dick for 1 second, you fungal rim job.
For posterity, I'll go ahead and hit the brief points of note. You play as this guy, Daniel Garner. He stared lovingly at his wife at the wrong time, and then they both got ate up by an Autobot, backspacing both him and his wife, Catherine. Bad times. Catherine goes to heaven. Daniel doesn't. Instead, he's here in Purgatory, which exists in the Christian lore if you mess around and get the Catholicism DLC. He gets given a list of Lucifer's generals to go and schmurder, and that's it. You're off to your first level, slaughtering demons in a graveyard. That's all you need to know. They tried to add details later on in the game, details that I'll cover when I'm going through the campaign. Just know that for whatever reason, nothing ever lands. Now then, back to things that make me happy. This game's levels carry you to a wide array of places, from a cemetery, where the level is called Cemetery, to a cathedral, where the level is called Cathedral, to a military base, where the level is called a military base, to Venice. This level is called City on Water for legal reasons, I guess. I don't know. They take you all over the everywhere with not a whole hell of a lot of explanation for how you got from one place to the other. You show up, dominate the opposition, and then hit the portal when you get to the end. The levels are populated with a few different varieties of walking target practice, all named just as bluntly as the levels. Each level will have between 2 and 4 different enemies, and while some enemies act alike, for example, this guy acts like this guy, which also acts a bit like this guy, and seems to fit the same role in combat as this guy and this guy, you get the picture. One would assume that this would make things tedious, but it doesn't. Part of that is the fact that the levels are on the shorter end. The other part is that the cornucopia of enemies is still varied enough that it wards off anything that could be classified as monotony. Speaking of the levels and the contents therein, I need to talk about black tarot cards. You have 2 types: silver cards, which are passive and insanely strong, and then we have gold cards, which can be activated for a short period of time, once per level, unless you have the appropriate silver card to increase that number. Gold cards are also stupidly strong. You acquire the ability to use black tarot cards by accomplishing specific tasks attached to each level. You know, collect so many souls, find every secret place, etc., etc. And then you get to go to this screen to place your cards into play in exchange for gold. Oh, by the way, there's gold in this game. Here's me picking some up. This brings me to one final point worth briefly touching upon before issuing the spoiler warning. The weaponry in this game is phenomenal. You know how games like to give you a blaster with infinite ammo and all the stopping power of a teaspoon of table salt to start with? Not here. This is the Painkiller.
Oh, he said the name of the game.
It starts you off with this maelstrom of a lawnmower blade with the addition of a happy little scorpion chain. As for your other weapons, you have the shotgun whose alt fire freezes enemies, making them vulnerable to disintegration, effectively making your shoddy a ranged weapon. If that sounds broken, that's because it is. Then you've got the state gun slash grenade launcher that can pin shit to walls. It's awesome. Then you get the rocket launcher slash chain gun that will absolutely clear a room. Ridiculous. And then last but not least, we have the electro driver. It fires shurikens and lightning. I'm not going to quote the zero punctuation quote, but this thing is a triumph against nature and the natural entropy of the universe. And it's all fired until completion. No one has time for reloading here. Hell, we don't even have time for weapon switching animations. The opposition must simply be carved into abstraction. Now then, if you wish to avoid spoilers for this game whose story bears less weight than the air we breathe, then by all means, leave the video and then maybe come back after you played the game. But if you're down for what's about to show up, then by all means, sear off your steaks and let's have at it. So for the sake of future record, this game has an unnatural obsession with GameSpy, even if you're playing it from Steam, which is what I'm doing here. This is the Black Edition, by the way. Just sidestep it and the game will boot as needed. I will also point out that I'm playing this game on Nightmare difficulty. My reasons are twofold. Reason number one, this game has an odd mechanic where depending on what difficulty you're playing on, it will not let you play certain levels. I guess that's one way to get people to play the higher difficulties. So as for the levels that you unlock as you progress up the difficulty ladder, here's how it goes. If you play on Insomnia difficulty, you get the privilege of playing the Abandoned Factory, Killer. If you play on Nightmare, you have the privilege of playing Prison, which is a great level, but I don't know how a gate-kept level ended up on the demo disc unless it just wasn't done that way for Hell Wars. Whatever, I'm just glad to be here. And if you play the max difficulty, Trauma, you get to play Forest. I've only played this level once, the one time that I went through the game on Trauma, and I remember it being difficult, but it has also been a while. But 77, I hear you asking. Why are you not playing this game on Trauma difficulty if you don't get all the levels? Great question. You see, Trauma difficulty shortens the game. The final chapter, the one that has some of my favorite levels, doesn't exist in Trauma. When playing on Trauma difficulty, when you terminate the Chapter 4 boss, you get Painkiller's true ending, which if that is the canon, then that would make Chapter 5 and Boo, as well as all of the other games that followed those two games, fan fiction, I guess? I don't know. I think it's a worthy question. Honestly, though, unironically, I imagine that part of it was because playtesters got to the docks and got melted by Staples and said, oh no, we can't give this to the public. Whatever. As far as the start of the game is concerned, well, I already covered what all happens in the opening cutscene. In this opening cutscene, I do want to point out Daniel Garner disrespecting his car's interior. Poor nondescript sports car. The level select screen is badass, by the way. Check it out. It's like cursed ASMR. So we're here in the cemetery. Guys, don't worry, I'm not going to go into great monotonous detail about the levels in this game, as if I did that, this video would never end. But what I will point out for each level are my favorite fights showcased therein, as well as a few other notable talking points. As a whole, the first chapter is really quite easy. The game is just trying to familiarize you with the flow of things. You know, slay demon, metabolize spirit, find a secret if you want, and become overcome with the jankiness of the movement. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about that yet. In this game, you can bunny hop at approximately the speed of Mach fuck, which leads to some curious events happening with the way your player character interacts with the environment, especially as you bounce around objects in these different arenas. The devs had to know that the movement was silly, as they let this fact inform some of the secret placement in this game. Don't worry though, I'll talk about that when we get there. Just know that for now, the movement is rather unique. My favorite encounter in this level is in this area here where you get bum rushed by a cavalcade of doomed demons. They had no chance. Although the final fight in this level is also a strong runner-up for me. Even has a little mini-boss. It's a spectacular first level. You even get a black tarot card for your trouble, Endurance, a gold card that makes you take half damage for a short period. I don't get every black tarot card in the game, but I get more than half, and I'll point out which ones I didn't get as we move forward. Next stop is the Atrium Complex. I've never heard the term Atrium Complex before playing this game for the first time, and I've never heard the term be used in real life since. But with that said, at least according to Google, it is indeed a real thing, so I guess I'll give it a rest. I find the state gun early in a secret. Awesome. My terrible aim makes the primary fire often less than ideal in a lot of circumstances, not to mention that this thing does have a little bit of drop at farther ranges, but the grenades are fantastic. My favorite encounter is easily this one here. It's just nonstop chaos with dudes coming at you from all sides, as well as dudes politely making their way down these steps. Single file to annihilation, I suppose. All of this demon side, however, brings me to one important point. This game has one of my favorite cheat codes of all time. Drop the macho elbow on your tilde to get to console commands and enter PK keep bodies. This prevents bodies from turning into souls and lets the dead just lay strewn about after your rampage. It sets adds quite the ambiance. It can also gobble up resources though, so don't overuse it. As far as the tarot card requirement goes, it asks me to break all objects. I was unsuccessful. Aside from that, it is indeed a good romp. Next stop is the Catacombs, a bit more of an open-ended map, I guess. The tarot card requirement asks to kill all enemies, meaning that there is little pockets of resistance beyond the main path of the level. Just gotta get past this rock right here. My favorite encounter in this level may be this first larger encounter in this open area. A lot of this level is kind of cramped because it's a catacomb. The penultimate combat before the end of the level has a lot of goofy geometry that enemies tend to get stuck on. Thankfully, unlike the last game I did, the compass in this game never fails me. So finding demons that are trying to power walk through a jutting polygon is never too hard. I can't aim for shit. The final encounter in this level has a little puzzle where you shoot out these boards up top, revealing the sunlight, and you trick this invulnerable feller here to step into its ray and jib itself. Metal. Also, I get my hands on the Soul Keeper card. Make souls hang around for longer before dissipating. Good card. Next stop is the Cathedral. The Axe Monks come back wearing chainmail and flesh wounds. They honestly look pretty cool. You know they're pulling out all the stops because they come at you with a proper mini-boss again, complete with its own health bar. I mean, it's not hard, but A for effort, even if it's just an inflated version of the dudes from the previous level. These floating scythe swingers will also hit you with some fume of suggestibility that makes your weapon not fire. Lame. My favorite bit of combat in this level is this penultimate arena right here. Large enough to see everybody, but tight enough to keep you moving, especially considering all the explosive barrels everywhere. Plus it has 2 floors, which allows for some interesting possibilities. The final fight is pretty fun too. I ended up getting myself flanked briefly, but whatever. By the way, the card requirement for this level was to collect 500 gold, which I'm sure I did. So let's see what I got. Huh? Hey, there we go. My reward is a card so broken that I wish I went and did this before I finished the game. 10 whole seconds! Now then, we get our first boss fight. This, my friends, is the Necro Giant, and he gave me some grief. Now, initially, I decided to not go for the Black Tarot card in this level because the requirement is that you have to kill him in under 2 minutes, so I figured I need to progress further in the campaign to get some better cards and then come back, right? But I got him in the first go in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so obviously I'm like, hey, I can get this easy. My second attempt goes well. I have him dead to rights, but then I alt-tabbed the game for a moment and the game crashed. Okay, Necro Giant, so I try it again. I once again have him dead to rights and drain him of all of his health. By the way, when you get a boss to 0 health in this game, it sends you into the Demon Morph. And for the Necro Giant, he runs away from you for a few steps before exploding. It's normally quite nice. However, this shadow play possessing ass runs out of the regular map and f***ing vanishes. Causing me to not get a portal. I am soft locked. I try again. He kills me with a tornado. I try again. Pierced from within. I try again. Rage quit quick load. Subsequent attempts ended as such. Tornado, tornado, tornado-induced fall damage, tornado again, and then finally I get him. I am ecstatic. I got him with 27 seconds to spare. I get the card. The card is Blessing. Gives you an initial health of 150 at level start. It is good. The struggle, it was worth it. Following the battle, we get another cutscene where this lady named Eve shows up wielding her Bugadagundas like a Dark Souls boss, and she talks about how Lucifer uses the graveyards here in Purgatory Land as portals. Cool story, bro. We also get the footnote that Daniel has been dead for almost 30 years, which means, inadvertently, that Buddy Bro here has been committed to the same leather jacket for 3 decades. Lets you know that this dude is a hoss when it comes to marriage. Chapter 2 Map 1 is the prison, and the prison doesn't play. Level immediately starts with the game dropping a bunch of hit-scanning bastards on your noggin. That, and also, the Black Tarot card requirement for this level is requesting me to use non-explosive weaponry, so no grenades for me. Incredibly lame. Also, there are these turrets that will evaporate you if you don't see them. It's hateful and brutal.
but it's too hateful and brutal.
Favorite fight in this level for me is easily the one here in this cell block, but to be fair, the level is enjoyable as a whole. I also successfully get the black tarot card for this level in exchange for my abstinence from grenades, and then proceed to never use it. Oh well. Next stop is the Opera House. The Opera House has ninjas for some reason. I don't have any clue how these two things go together. The tarot card wants me to collect 100 souls, which is piss easy, especially considering the Soul Keeper card that I got earlier. These early sections where we're navigating the scaffolding kind of suck, but this battle in this big open area where we meet the entire enemy roster for the level is awesome. And then the chandelier falls down, and these spiders start crawling around its peak. This fight also right at the back end of the level is also badass. Makes a man want to snap into a Slender James. Beyond there, we move to the Asylum, the second level that you get the privilege of playing in the special edition, quote unquote. The tarot card wants you to do the combat using only your Painkiller. Gladly. This level would be the easiest level of the game, but the problem is that there are these dudes that will explode in a shower of weaponized martyrdom, and for whatever reason, they like to hide around corners. Used to cause me some cheap deaths back in the day. This room right here, when you first enter it, has to be my favorite fight in the level. After that, though, the level just kind of drags to the end, which is odd for a level that has less than 100 enemies. Hey, what's he thinking? Yay, it's a good card. Beyond that, we have the... Oh, damn it. All right, fun fact. Snowy Bridge is my least favorite level in the game, and it's not even close. I struggle to really articulate why. All I know is that I just don't have fun on it. I cannot tell you how many times in the past I fired up Painkiller, played all the way to the Snowy Bridge, and then just said, fuck it. There's a section in the middle that used to really piss me off back in the day, and I'll tell you what it is when we get there. The tarot card requirement dictates that I find every secret place. I found most of them, but refused to play this level again to find the rest. Sue me. Also, we get ninjas again. I have no clue what ninjas have to do with the bridge, or snow, or the abject combination of the two. By the way, remember what I said about the locations for secrets in this game? Check this out. Yeah, you can go fuck yourself, buddy. We also finally get the electro driver in this level. Shurikens, lightning. I have no idea what niche this weapon is supposed to fill. All I know is call it a crunch wrap because it's full up, Jack. By the way, remember that part of the level that I said used to piss me off? Check this. That's so stupid. I would make an observation for just exactly how treacherous the platforming there is, but you can see it. So yeah, it's dumb. I don't have a favorite battle for this level. Hell, you're not even on a bridge for half of it. You gotta keep the theming, not ride a train car with busted physics halfway through. I was just happy for the ending to come. Next level is Town, the first level that you get to play in the special edition. Nice to know that the special edition of the game does things out of order. The tarot card requirement is to beat this level using only stakes, which is fine because they keep you saturated to fulfillment with vampire defeaters in this level. The only thing that gets tricky is trying to shoot these witches out of the air. This level is definitely my favorite level in the chapter and one of my favorites in the game overall. Does everything that Painkiller does so well. This level probably also has my favorite background track in the game. It gave me an earworm, and that earworm is twerking on my cerebral cortex as we speak. The whole level builds to this fight at the end, which is easily my favorite fight in the level. 10 out of 10. The level is an impeccable 10 minutes. I also get double haste for my trouble, basically bullet time. And you know what? Slow motion makes all things cooler. The Mythbusters made a living on their high-speed camera. All right, fellers. Final stop of the chapter is the swamp, so we can go slay the swamp thing. If I kill him in under 4 minutes, I get a card. Hey guys, y'all want to watch a boss evaporate? Yes, sir. I gained dexterity for my troubles. Wonderful. We also get another godforsaken cutscene where Eve says that she doesn't know where the enemy forces have gone. And instead of Daniel telling her to shut the f up so that he can get on with the game like he should have, they instead take a cross-country trek where Daniel introduces Eve to a demon named Asmodeus.
Wait, you're not the Eve, are you? What? The Eve?
Oh, gee, What was your first clue? Asmodeus gives the lore about how he and Daniel came to know each other, lore that I couldn't possibly be bothered to care less about. And then mercifully, we are on to the next thing. All right, friends, Chapter 3. I know I've praised the variety in environments and enemies to this point in the game, but this chapter is the lone exception, as it is where that all somewhat collapses in on itself and things get somewhat samey. For example, the enemies all stay in the same thematic family for the entire chapter. Those enemies being these silver dudes, gold dudes, anemic dudes with ventilated chests, and supplement-laden flamethrower dudes. And then we get some artillery to fight out at the military base, but I'll get to that here shortly. In addition to the enemies coming from the same family tree, if that family tree was a grapevine, all three of the regular levels here short of the boss level all have the same similar sort of industrial vibe going on. It's fine though, I don't get bored as there is still, thankfully, plenty of great combat to be found here. First level is the train station. The tarot card requirement demands I not collect a single soul, and to be honest, that does get a bit challenging when most of the enemies you're dealing with are hit scanners. By God, every bit of health counts. We get the rocket launcher minigun combo here, a true room clearing brute as long as you've got the munitions for it. Out of the three regular levels in this chapter, I'd have to say that this one is my least favorite. The environments aren't claustrophobic by any means in this level, but they are noticeably less open than what will come on later on in the chapter. For whatever reason, this caused me problems. My favorite fight in this level is this one where I accidentally activated my tarot cards. Has the most of that classic Painkiller feel. With that said, this one where we get closed in and jumped by a bunch of everyone and everything up to and including the water spout on a Samsung bespoke refrigerator is also worth noting. Gave me a good challenge. For accomplishing the idiotic task of not collecting a single soul, I gain a black tarot card that causes enemy souls to flee my direction. It is broken, almost trivializes things from that point forward. Next on the tour of complete and comprehensive obliteration, we hit the abandoned factory. Could very well be my favorite level in the entire game. It's got a solid amount of scope to it. The music is absolutely splendid. And the combat encounters are consistently excellent enough that I struggle to pick a favorite. We're basically firing on all cylinders here. A 20-minute long winning streak. The requirements for the card are to obliterate 30 demons while in demon morph. It's simple, especially with the soul catcher card. An exercise in performative domination. After wrapping this level in a blood-soaked bow, the card I get for my trouble is called Forgiveness. Lets me use gold cards twice per stage. It is obscenely important, and I'll tell you all why later. Final stage before the boss in this chapter is the military base. Probably the longest level in this game, and it's also potentially the most wide-ranging. Still doesn't have a patch on Dead City, however. The ambient track that plays between combat arenas has this odd bit of schizo babble happening. Sounds like me every time I find a decent parking spot only to realize that it's been taken by a smart car. This level's card requirement demands that I kill all demons, meaning that once again that there are patches of resistance to be found beyond the path of least resistance. Bad news though is that I didn't find all of them and I had no desire to play this level again to do it right. Oops. This level has a number of cool encounters. My favorites easily being the ones that happen in these open areas. Just death and carnage and combustible armament as far as the eye can see. This level also picks up steam as it goes on, starting rather small in meeting rooms and alleyways and ending in a straight-up Roswell reference. Iconic. After 3 arduous levels, we get our fight against the third of Lucifer's generals, the Guardian. He has a hammer and he swings it, and if you don't jump when it lands, it throws you in the air. I use my gold cards and melt them in under a minute 20 to get my card. Its Iron Will gives me invulnerability for a short period. Costs 666 gold to place. Do you get it? You get it? Iron Will, like Forgiveness, is also obscenely important. Don't worry, you'll know why soon enough. We get a cutscene where Daniel meets Samuel, and Daniel is obviously irate about the fact that he's been in purgatory for the length of most mortgages. Daniel Gardner Minshew tries to shoot Samuel.
I understand that you may be frustrated.
It is ineffective. We finally get something that plays a little bit into the overarching plot of the game as Samuel name drops Alistair, Lucifer's right-hand feller. And Samuel then, from that point, manages to very quickly get Danny Spector's head back in the game. To the next chapter. First level in this chapter is the castle, which is a fine level. The first half has some striking environments with this snow-coated stone structure juxtaposing the red of our leper zombies from town and whatever the fuck these guys are supposed to be. It's all good stuff. This leads to the back half of the level really starting to close things off and bring all of our combat into these tighter areas with these here, I'm just going to call them dogs, not to be confused with the actual dogs we fight sometimes. The second half of the level really isn't as strong as the first half in my opinion, but whatever. Favorite fight in this level is this one where the game introduces this power-up to us. I don't know if it has a proper name, but it modifies your weapons to be stronger. You know, stakes don't have a ballistic arch. The spread of the shotgun doesn't exist. Simple stuff, super effective. I feel that since Berserk as a power-up name is one that has been overused, I will instead call this the Urgle Gurgle Grumble Wumble. The black tarot card for this level requires us to find every holy item, and since holy items are almost exclusively found in secret areas, well buddy, we get more jank moving at the speed of Mach Callias. Jesus Christ, he's fast. Anyway, the first few holy items are right underneath your feet at the start of the level. Here's a death montage. Just barely got it. Call it a beaver because damn, that was needlessly difficult. Now, you want to see something else, bananas? You know what? I'm not even going to speak on it. The card I get for my troubles is called Rage. Lets me do 4x damage for a brief period. It's fantastic. The next destination for demonic liberation is the Palace. A banger level. Definitely my favorite level in the chapter and one of my favorites in the game. Another more substantial level where a large amount of ground is covered. The combat encounters in this level are consistently solid. I have a hard time picking a favorite. Almost all killer and zero filler. By the 9 divines, you getting sturdy for real. If I were to be critical of any one part of this level, it would be that the second encounter drags a bit. It's a wide open area where these swordsmen spawn damn near indefinitely, it feels like, and they spawn all over the area, so you'll be stumbling around looking for a demon to splatter, only for him to be simultaneously haphazardly chasing you with all of his might. It's a shame that they never stand a chance. Also, this level has fireworks. Yeah. The level demands that you reach the end without armor, so I went out of my way to make sure that that happened by simply not picking any up. This level also gives a false finish, and you know what? That's cool and all, but I would care more if I knew who it was that was laughing. If it's Lucifer laughing and turning off my exit portal here, then was the portal a fake portal put up by him, or is he just able to turn off portals at will? And if he is able to turn off portals at will, then why is it that I, of all people, have been running roughshod over his entire executive management division? I have many questions and few answers. The card I get for my trouble is Vitality. Increases base health to 150. Not even a judgment call. Gotta use it. Next up, we hit Babel. You know, that place in the Bible where a bunch of folks got together to build a tower, but then God said, hold up, Haas, that ain't up to code, and then proceeded to cause the existence of different languages. The card requirement here is to pick up all ammo, and I'm gonna be real for a second. I didn't even try to get it. I couldn't be bothered. Waste ammo to get ammo? Don't ever go through a choke when chasing the main character. Dude, these demons learn nothing. This level is another solid level, building on the previously established palace aesthetic, but instead it happens at night. And there are these doomsday canines with spiked shoulder pads again, returning from the castle on their LOD grind set. My favorite favorite combat encounters in this level are all in the middle of the level. They've got some solid scale going on here. Makes you feel like a real hammer. With that said, though, the final encounter is also rather solid. We get this one big dude, followed rather quickly by a whole herd of knights breathing down our throat. Pause. The following level would be forest, but I'm trying to show off the entire game here. So here's some footage I found on YouTube. As per usual, the link is always in the description. Finally, we hit the tower and meet Alistair. Now, guys, remember when I said that the Mercy card and the Iron Will card were both important? Guys, this is why. This boss fight happens in multiple phases, and between phases, the ground gives way, and you will simply fall to the floor below. Fall damage is unavoidable, at least in my experience, unless you simply have Iron Will. Granted, the first few drops aren't from that high up, and there is some health lying around to help you replenish. But then you hit the final phase where you drop from what looks like several hundred feet in the air, and if you don't die, death will at least be approaching you because a drop that large will send your hips through your shoulders. Like I said, there may still somehow be a way to mitigate this fall damage, but I never found it. I simply abuse my cards, and I abuse them right here. This assures me victory and helps me defeat Alistair in under the allotted time frame of 5 minutes. My reward is triple haste. Now the slow motion is even slower. Easiest decision replacement ever! Alright guys, I need you to stay with me for a second. As stated before, if you play this game on trauma difficulty, this is where the game ends. In the opening cutscene, we are instructed to kill 4 of Lucifer's generals. And killing Alistair? Well, friends, that makes number 4. Ergo, that's when you get the nice super secret ending that's all white and you're in heaven and Daniel goes to meet Catherine and it's all nice and mushy and good. Well, we're not playing on trauma. We're playing on nightmare. And what the writers for this game cooked up to get this game to chapter 5 is needlessly ridiculous, and it hurts my head, and just be ready for it. We get another useless smattering of story where Eve shows up asking a ridiculous question.
Is that Alistair?
Eve tells Daniel that they need to hop in the whip and get out of Dodge because a dead Alistair means that Lucifer isn't far behind. Speaking of demons, Asmodeus shows up and nope, nuh-uh, no way. I am not doing my gimmick that I may or may not have partially swagger jacked from Robot Chicken. I don't care about this game's story enough. I simply don't. Asmodeus is Lucifer.
I dig graves.
What a twist!
You know, if this game gave me one good goddamn reason to care about its narrative, then I might would have gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for this callback. But you see, it hasn't. After Lucifer reveals himself, he steals Eve and heads out. Samuel tries to congratulate Daniel and send him to heaven, but Daniel, someone who has hated every part of his involvement in this quest since the campaign began, decides to do his best impersonation of a company guy and reject going to heaven for completing the task of slaying all of Lucifer's generals. He decides instead to follow Lucifer into hell to rescue Eve. And guys, people, friends, first-time viewers of the channel even, this simply does not make sense. Daniel has spent the entirety of this game being all frustrated with the fact that he had to go on this quest in the first place, especially when Samuel would show up.
He has his reasons, and he doesn't have to explain them to anyone. Do this, and you will be pure.
I was pure?
He said,
What I don't understand is why I'm here. I lived a good life.
he decreed,
I want to know why I'm being judged. Why I am not fair.
he ejaculated. But now, faced with the chance to leave it all behind, he decides, nah, never mind. I'm going into this dimension, a dimension that Samuel says there is no escape from, to rescue that one person that ate an apple that one time and set in motion a chain of events that leads all the way to TV licenses, property taxes, and low battery fruit soda. Well, it took a fundamentally batshit turn of narrative events to facilitate us landing here, but we're here in Chapter 5, where a bunch of my favorite levels are. First up is Venice. They call it the city on water, but the inspiration here is fairly obvious, I feel like. The card requirement for this level is to find all of the secret areas, and while I know where all the secret areas are in this level, one of them can break the level if you go and get it too early. And after the second time of me doing this ridiculous series of jumps to go get it, I got super frustrated with trying to get the card and simply moved on with life. Sue me. By the way, this is the first secret. This level is great, does a lot of things right, and gets in and out in under 10 minutes. A lot of the fights present here are excellent. My favorite is the penultimate conflict right here. We get another shot at using some good old-fashioned Urgle Gurgle Grumble Wumble here. which is fitting with all of these guys on the high ground, and then you've also got all of these fools single filing to their demise from all angles. Another point of note is that this level introduces these Ghost Rider looking dudes that are decently tanky and can absolutely cheese you with some of their more auxiliary mechanics. I always just freeze them. It's a great escape the penitentiary for no schmeckles maneuver. Huh. Next in line is the docks, a level that on paper should be simple, but it's not. Not even a little bit. Do you hear this? That's the sound of your health ticking to 0. These dudes that fire staple guns, yeah, they're not technically hit scanners, but they hit you with the Zerg Rush in numbers that would make the Flood envious. They're not tanky by any means, but they have just enough hit points that one shotgun blast isn't enough to always do the job either. And if you're not careful, you will quickly be diminished to carrion. It is a blood-splattered reckoning. My favorite fight in this level may be this one right here. It's awesome. Doesn't last very long, but it is certainly a spectacle. This other one where we get ramshackled by a bunch of Ghost Riders is also worth noting, however. The card requirement here is to go into Demon Morph 3 times. However, that did not come true for me as there were apparently some other combat encounters that I missed out on. That and also I didn't have the patience to deal with the stapler demons again. I'm just not. So here we are. Check the goofy physics on this crate. They're shipping things in rectangles made of paper mache, I guess. Strong at TV. The last level before the final boss is the Old Monastery. This level is probably where I felt the strongest playing through the campaign. It's less of a level and more of a one-man all-out assault, complete with another one of my favorite tracks in the game. Just gore and mayhem and a power-up right off the rip. This maelstrom of debauchery right at the start of this level is probably my favorite fight in the level, but just because it starts strong doesn't mean that the rest of the level is weak either. This level also hits us with a random key hunting mechanic, and I'm going to run my mouth about this for a minute. Why are we waiting until the second to last level in the game to hit the player with key hunting? There's once again no story reason for this. It doesn't make the first bit of sense why it's happening. As far as I'm aware, no one in hell likes stars unless that's what's needed to make their way into hell. What? Maybe it was spoken about during the last cutscene, but I didn't absorb the information on account of my brain turning into pudding during said cutscene after getting so angry at this game's nonsensical anti-plot that I could feel my gallbladder expanding. It looks like a gizzard now. Either way, great level, wonderful way to send off the main campaign, even if the caves at the end get a bit weird. Fuck this lighting fixture in particular, and fuck your multi-level marketing campaign. Also, as a reward for keeping my health above 50 HP, I gained the Soul Redeemer. Make souls give you more health. Sounds cool, but I haven't gotten to use it yet. Maybe another time. Anyway, hey guys, we're in hell. This is the home of the final boss. And while this level doesn't take very long, I spent enough time faffing about and looking at the environment to wax poetical about this game's version of hell. So I've spoken about a couple of Doom games on this channel, and their versions of hell are both different and pretty cool, especially Doom 3's version of hell. It's so deliberately hateful of your presence. It's remarkable. This is different, however. It's a war zone that is frozen in time, mid-gunshot, mid-explosion. How evil people can be to one another encased in the sanctity of an unending moment. Entropy paused indefinitely. It's a neat concept. Aside from that, though, you get some ghosts of your past enemies chasing you, kill 66 of them, and you are confronted with Lucifer. Now, you see, in past boss fights, you entered the Demon Morph after achieving victory so long as the boss is playing by the rules. But here, you can only face Lucifer as a demon. The boss fight is a little goofy, but once you get the hang of things, it's pretty simple. Lucifer will cause rocks to go airborne. As long as you're quick enough, you can cast one right back into him. When you do that, he'll get pissed off and throw his sword at you. Shoot the sword back at him with your malignant brainwaves and achieve victory. It's kind of crazy. That's literally all there is to it. After slaying Lucifer, we get the Black Tarot card. It's called Mercy. It's like forgiveness, but instead of being able to use gold cards twice, you can use them 3 times. Yeah, that's nasty. And if you want, you can take it with you straight into trauma difficulty, because this game has a weird New Game Plus thing where you can take Black Tarot cards with you. It's pretty cool.
I must admit I was shocked to see that you declined the offer to heaven.
Yeah, me too, buddy. After entering the big blue portal, we get yet another display of absolutely batshit writing, where Alistair shows up, explains the fact that he can't be killed when he's out of hell, and then proceeds to give away the secret that he can't be killed if he's in hell, thus inadvertently giving us the setup for Battle Out of Hell, a game that I will talk about as soon as I figure out how to talk about the game's first level, but that's a story for another time. God, I loved this game. When I first played it, it did a lot to inform some of the preferences that I'd eventually have when it came to the first-person shooters that I play. Make no mistake, even if the story is the most irrelevant plot I've ever seen in a game, ever, it doesn't drag down the experience for me one bit. If it drags down the experience for you, and this is the one time you'll ever hear me say this, just hit the skip button. It's what I normally do when it's Painkiller time and I'm not making an overly long video on the game. From what I've been able to gather, there were no official sales figures released for Painkiller. With that said though, one can deduce from the litany of follow-up titles that were released under the Painkiller name that the original game was indeed a commercial success, in addition to being a critical success. 85. That doesn't happen with games that don't turn a profit. If it did, we'd have at least a few more Bulletstorm titles by now. This game is great. If you haven't played it, well, to be honest, I'd recommend anyone give this game and Battle Out of Hell a proper spin. It is worth it. I can only hope that the reboot does something to dust the dirt and muck off the IP's reputation, considering everything that has happened with the franchise. With that said, well, I'm on to the next thing. Got a couple things working their way through the pipeline that I'm excited for. All right, friends, a little postscript here. This is all coming straight off the dome, so bear with me. I've got two things that I want to make a point of. The first thing I want to make a point of is the fact that, well, anyone who has followed my channel for any length of time has probably observed the fact that it took me a little bit longer to put this video out than it normally would have. I made a couple posts about this fact, but basically I had some personal business going on, and as a result, well, I lost about a week and a half of production time at least on this video. And considering the fact that it takes me about a month and a half to put one of these things out, a week and a half makes a big difference. With that said though, that business is for the most part behind me, and now we're able to go full tilt the way that I want to. Point number two, and I am super stoked on this, we hit 500 subscribers. That's cool. Now, something I want to make note of in regards to that fact is that, simply put, 500 is a big number, and if you follow YouTubers for long enough, it's easy to get desensitized at the fact of just how many people 500 is, especially when you're dealing with channels that have 1 million subs, 10 million subs, or north of the fabled 9-figure number that leads me to believe that said subscriber base would have a GDP that rivals some countries. But simply put, if I was sat down in a chair and asked to name 500 people that I knew personally off the top of my dome, I'm gonna tell you right now, it ain't happening. So to wrap it up in a nice little bow, I just want to take a moment to be proud, be grateful, and be thankful. Coming home and working on these videos every day after work really does beat the hell out of coming home, laying on the couch at approximately a 45-degree angle, and then decomposing while watching whatever local news channel is on and getting progressively more and more pissed off, like a bunch of folks do when they start getting knee-deep in adulthood. I thank you all very much for it. With that said, I gotta move on to the next thing. Much love, and I'll see you all soon. Peace.